Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Evan from Bigger Britches, and I'm here today on New Year's Eve to talk about something that I think is not discussed enough with parenting, with childhood. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand with something like circumcision, which I've made one other video on. It's like a big, it's a massive thing, that would totally, I think, change the psychology of a kid and really. I don't want to say it'll determine the direction of your life because I don't like to be deterministic about things, but it definitely will have a huge impact. And I think the impact that something like circumcision has is really understated in society. But I already made a video talking about that. So if you agree with me that circumcision is wrong, we can just move on to my real topic here. And if you want to check out that video, you can. But I'm actually talking about breastfeeding today, which I think similarly to circumcision, it's something that pertains to the very early formative years of a baby's life. The first, couple months, the first couple years. And it's something I didn't think about too much until the last couple years, talking about my brother with this stuff, kind of coming to realize that, I was not breastfed. Which is odd because for most of all of human history, breastfeeding was how you gave your baby nourishment during their early years. And it's something I've been slowly learning more and more about. The consequences of not breastfeeding are more substantial than I realized. And the benefits of breastfeeding are also not to be understated. The way that, when the mother breastfeeds, there's a skin-to-skin contact. The baby is feeding on the mother's breast. And that physical contact between mother and child helps build empathy for the mother towards the child, and it builds a bond between both of them. The child feels very safe and secure in being breastfed by his or her mother. It grounds them in this existential sense of security that they are going to be taken care of, that their parents do care about them. It really does set you up for a life of, greater stability and more confidence. It shapes your worldview, and it's something people don't talk about. But obviously, this is going to matter. Whether or not, your needs as a baby are met, how are your needs being met? And this is something I thought about this morning. Traditionally, the mother breastfeeds the baby. And like I said, this is building existential security between the baby and the mom. It's making the baby feel safe and comfortable. It's informing the baby that its primary needs are going to be met by another human being, by its own mother, which I think is a drastically different lesson than the one which is learned by a baby who's not breastfed, but instead fed formula through a bottle. That's teaching a baby a very different lesson if you think about it. Because on the one hand, if your mother breastfeeds you, that's teaching you that your needs in life can be met by other people. And I think that's going to influence your social life might even be dictated by this. The way you view the world, other people, how much can you depend on other human beings to meet your needs. I think if you're breastfed, you're kind of more trusting of other people, and you have this idea that people can give me what I need, and people are trustworthy. But if you're not breastfed as a baby, in the first place, there's a certain kind of maybe disappointment or sense of abandonment that your mother is not taking you into her own arms and feeding you herself with her own breast. There's something to that that's obviously gonna, if the mother's not doing that, the baby's gonna feel maybe rejected, maybe there's something wrong. Why is she not feeding me? Why am I instead being fed through a bottle with formula, with store-bought formula? That's teaching the child a very different lesson about the nature of the world, that your inherent needs are not going to be met by other people, by other human beings, by your own mother. Your needs are best met through store-bought things, through a plastic bottle. That's really interesting to me. I almost feel I don't know what the statistics are on this, or if there's any studies, but I feel like children who are bottle fed might be more likely to become addicts, like substance abusers, alcoholics, drug addicts, addicts of any kind, even just people who are addicted to like the internet and screens, like I've been for a lot of my life. And I say that I think bottle-fed babies are more likely to be addicts. I think that's true because when you're bottle-fed, it is teaching you that your deepest needs are best met with worldly things, with like, products, or because think about the context here. You're being fed with a plastic bottle with store-bought formula, which is not natural, which is manufactured, which is like corporate. And so the baby's learning, oh, okay, like the things that I need in life, my wants and needs are fulfilled through things, not through other people. The baby who's breastfed is learning human connection, bonding with the mother, realizing, oh, other people are here to pick me up, to fulfill my needs. My mother's here to fulfill my needs. And so kids who don't have that, I think, are chasing that for the rest of their life. They're chasing that sense of like need. There's a need they have and had, and that was never met. And so they're always chasing it. And like I said, I've been reading Peaceful Parenting by Stephen Franson, if you can see that here, which I recommend if you're into this kind of stuff. It's very interesting. And he's been going into it a little bit, the breastfeeding thing, and how, like I said, there's a sense of existential security that a baby has when he or she is breastfed. Because, like I said, it's the same reason why you just want to spend time with your kids when they're really young, because it's showing them that they're cared for, that their parents, take note of their needs, that the kids are heard and listened to, but the breastfeeding is a very primal thing. It's very important for a baby to experience, I think, that, Stefan Molyneux talked about this too, like the skin-to-skin contact is very important. Just like physical touching, just like a parent who touches their child. I feel like that's something I didn't have for a lot of my life. Like, even beyond breastfeeding, my mother did not breastfeed me, which is like the first part of this. And the other part is like, I did not have much physical contact with my parents either. Like I remember, maybe when I was really young, we would like hug and stuff and maybe play. I think I played with my dad a few times, like physically, but past a certain age, there was really no physical contact. Like hugs were very rare, especially with my dad and even with my mom. And like, I think mothers are kind of seen as more, like sentimental, and like they're more likely to like, get all over their sons and hug them and stuff. And it's like, my mom didn't even really do that to me. I didn't get that many hugs. And it's like, no one really touched me. And that was kind of like just another thing on top of already being emotionally neglected. It's like, I'm also, not being touched, like physically. And when no one's touching you physically, there's just not really a validation of your personhood, if that makes sense. Like no one was really speaking to me on a consistent and like deep level. And then on top of that, it's like no one's touching me. So it's like, it's a double whammy. It's like emotionally I feel unseen, and physically I feel like I'm just translucent, like see-through, or like no one's even touching me. So that's, just something to think about. And I think a lot of the instability in people emotionally, I just wonder how much of it can be attributed to the early years of, were you breastfed? You know what I mean? Like that sounds really reductive and kind of maybe like too simple, but at the same time, I feel like maybe it is that simple. Maybe your personality really is just determined by the first like few months of your life. You know what I mean? Like, so being circumcised and then also not being breastfed, like that's a really rough start to life. And I'm not trying to throw a pity party, because that was my situation. I'm sure tons of other guys had that same start in life. So I'm not throwing a pity party. I'm just saying, like, I'm realizing like, damn, like maybe I should have a bit more empathy for myself, like considering the start that I had. Like it's kind of a rough start. Yeah, and like it becomes less of a mystery why I am the way I am, you know. And there's also years and years of my childhood that I've kind of got into in some videos, you know, during the teenage years, the more formative years when like manhood was supposed to be taught to me, but it wasn't. Just kind of being emotionally neglected, left to my computer, video games, being very isolated, not having many friends for a good long time. Like there's all that stuff too, which also explains why I am the way I am. So I look at all that stuff. But at the same time, like I've heard the first 5 years of childhood are maybe the most influential, the most important in terms of your personality. And so I look back and I'm like, okay, what happened in the first 5 years of my life? And truth be told, I can't remember a whole lot of it. So it must not have been that great. But what I have gathered, you know, just kind of being told, or it's either been told to me explicitly or implied. So I know I was circumcised, obviously, like that's not hard to find out. And then it was kind of implied I was never breastfed, or at least not for very long. Because I asked my mother about this, and it was a very touchy subject. She didn't want to talk about it. All I ever got was that she tried to breastfeed me, but eventually just kind of gave up, I guess. It gave up pretty quickly from what I gathered. So those are two big things I know about my earliest years, is being circumcised and not being breastfed. And again, I'm not trying to be deterministic. I'm not here to say, oh, if you're circumcised and you weren't breastfed, like it's over for you, like you're never going to be normal, you're screwed for the rest of your life. Like I don't subscribe to that. I like to think I've always tried to make the best with the cards I was given. I can be kind of a downer. I can be, you know, I've had my rough spots. Certainly I have, and I won't pretend like I haven't. I've felt like giving up. Like I've liked the convenience of blaming my childhood for like my shortcomings today. And I don't like doing that, and that's not right, and it's not fair. As an adult, you can't blame your childhood for, you know, what you do every day. You have to pick yourself up at some point. But this is to say that I've had a severe lack of empathy for myself for many years, I think, which is a result of my parents not having empathy for me. And the more that I look within, the more I realize, like, man, you know, at age 20, almost 21, like if I'm not exactly where I think I should be in life, and I think there's people who are ahead of me, like I shouldn't sweat it too much. I shouldn't beat myself up too much, because it's like, look at the start that I had. Like it was kind of rough, kind of a rough start, you know. In a lot of ways, I think I was set up to be, you know, an addicted, shut down person. With the background I have, you know, it was certainly in the cards for me to be a worse person than I am right now. So I try to be empathetic and say, oh, well, look at where I started from, you know. I didn't have some basic core things that other people have. So it's like, you know, if I see someone out in the world who's super confident, maybe now I'll just say to myself, oh, you know what? He was probably breastfed. He was breastfed. That's why he's doing good. I wasn't. So I should have empathy. That's all it boils down to. Everyone in the world who's confident and happy and successful and rich and attractive and all that stuff, they were breastfed. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. But it probably has some influence. So I'm just saying, I think it matters, you know, and it's good to reflect on these things, because I think some people take no accountability for anything in their life, but other people take full accountability for everything in their life, which I feel like I've done for a lot of my life. And I think if you're like me, it's good to kind of just reflect and be like, okay, where did I come from? Like, what was my life like? What kind of start was I given? And how is that influencing the way I am today? And so I look back at things, and just this morning, I've been reading Peaceful Parenting, and he's talking about breastfeeding. So I'm just like, oh, well, I wasn't breastfed. Does that have something to do with the way I am today? It's not to say that I blame everything on that. Like, that's kind of silly. That's not mature. I'm not saying blame everything in your life on the past, but I'm saying, like, yeah, understand that you are a product of your history, and it's good to reflect on it, and it's good to build some kind of empathy for yourself, considering what your start was. So anyways, I don't want to go in circles. I just thought that was interesting, the breastfeeding stuff, and I had some thoughts on the dome I wanted to get out. It is New Year's Eve, so I hope you guys have a good New Year's Eve today. I'm going to put this out today, right now. So I hope you enjoy this. Going into the new year, I hope to be a cooler person and a better person, which might happen. It might not. We'll see. I don't know. Resolutions can fall through. Oh, what's that Smith song I heard recently where he's like, but plans can fall through, and so often they do. They do. But I'll plan on being cooler next year. That's my resolution. I'll be a cool guy and maybe make more videos on this channel. You're seeing me today because I slept pretty well. So I'll see you the next time that I get a good night's sleep and I feel inspired. Anyways, hope this was cool. Have a good New Year's Eve. Thank you for everyone who watches these, and hope you do well. So see you guys. Peace.